have friends, but they are shy, right? There is no camera. It's okay to be shy. You just have to recognize it, to accept yourself. You are shy, right? Yes, yes, I'm shy. Or yes, I'm here. Oh. Wow. Admit. Shall I admit? It's $10. It's how I got rich. You are right, more attuned to quantitative methodology, right? Did you ever have a qualitative class, qualitative methodological class? She has?
In your program
in your program, did you ever have? No?
No program? Actually not.
No. And you will not have just quantitative?
Just quantitative maybe. Yeah.
Okay,
Program.
but it's okay. But it will be an introduction to, there are many orientations in qualitative methods, but one of its orientation comes from cultural psychology, and we study processes. Yeah, it's not working here. I think because I click. So it will be an introduction to, well, how can we study cultural process from a qualitative perspective? So it will be something different. So you need to open your horizon, to stay open. Because the idea is to, does it work if I click?
You have to direct the things to, tiene que dirigirlo para allá, ¿no es cierto? You have to point.
There, okay. So I want to, it's not, I want to sensibilize you. I don't want to convince you to move to a qualitative approach. Actually, they are complementary. But just to sensibilize you to this approach. When you will have a PhD and be professor, maybe you will have students who will be open to that. Maybe you will collaborate with some colleagues who are more akin to that. So just to open your horizon and to make you reflect on the relation between research and intervention. Is there any psychologist here? People who are already psychologists? Okay. No?
Psychologist? No. Okay. But I'm a psychologist, you are a psychologist?
You are? Okay. So I will try to make the parallel between being a psychologist, right, and making research, okay? Because when you are with your clients, you are with a real person. So you are not with the number, right? Because maybe this person participates in a research, right? So if you participate in a qualitative or a quantitative research, is different. Because when you read a research report, you want to know about people's reality, about real people that you will really meet. So it's the basic idea. So what can qualitative research provide as a material that will be helpful to guide your intervention in psychotherapy? So, do you think that research and intervention are connected? What is the relation between both? If you are a psychologist, how useful can be consulting research or doing research for you? It's a question that I ask. It will be very discussion-based today, and I will do some activities. So I do not arrive as I'm here more as a pedagogue than as an expert, because I want to convey you, to sensibilize you. So it's the question. So if you are a psychologist, how useful is it to read a research paper? How could it help you? In what direction? Yeah.
Hi, I think that if we do research, depending on the area that we study, we can profundize in the variables that we want, and then look, like in the results, we can see the needs of if we study like children, we could see what are the most specific needs in order to eventually do an intervention. So, like in general terms.
So it's interesting that you use the word needs so that you can see the needs of a certain population that you try to help in your office, right? So what those needs. So keep this in mind while we continue the discussion. What kind of research can inform you about the needs of this person, of the person, right? So imagine that this is a mother and a child, and the grandfather, the puppet, it's not that important, and that you are trying to help these two people, right? You are trying to help the child who has some learning issue, and you decide to meet also with the parents. And you are the puppets as the psychologist, or you are here outside, you decide. So imagine that this is in your office, and you had they ask you to be a psychologist because the child has some learning issue at school, for example. So there may be some needs there, or maybe you can consult some research report to know more about children disability okay. But what kind of research report or paper do we consult to learn about that? So do you have any idea? What will you consult? Imagine that this child is a slow learner, for example, and that is late with his peer. What kind of research report will you look at? Quantitative?
Yeah,
Of course.
with a standardized test in the specific needs or demands of the family and or the school.
Yeah. So how can a standardized test can inform you about his needs, about the needs of the children, or about his issue in learning? You said I will consult. So what kind of information can you get from that?
I could see the probability of a learning disorder, for example, but that standardized test will tell me where is the child compared to his or her peers.
Yeah. Okay. So it's one way to look at it. I will show you another way eventually. If I go back now to your goal as a psychologist, what is your goal with this child? And why did you invite the mother there? What is your goal? What do you want to do? What is your aim? What are you aiming for as a psychologist? Yeah.
His well-being.
Sorry?
To improve his well-being in his context.
Yeah, so to improve, so to create a change?
Yeah.
Positive. You?
Maybe if I have only one dyadic situation of like this, maybe to understand how is the synchrony in the learning and then the playing between the mom and the child. Because maybe they are the unique dyadic to understand and to study. And I think it's better to understand how is the dyadic situation, the synchrony between the play. I think it's maybe a goal. Because I don't know if I have more dyadics between mother and child. Maybe I have only one dyadic, and if my goal is to
What by dyadic? I just didn't.
Dyadic relationship.
Mom-child.
Yeah, so you want to observe.
Yeah, observe the synchrony between the playment and between the people.
If we look for research-based interventions, of course they talk about numbers. They don't talk about this specific child in this specific culture, in this specific family. So it's like we have to use a lot of information, not only this research-based intervention necessarily will help this child.
Yeah, so that consulting this kind of research will give you some general information that you have to contextualize to see if it fits or not. Then you use your job.
And to see where does that research-based intervention come from? Is it from weird children or from, I don't know?
Yeah, in order to make sure that it fits with this situation.
Or if it's
So I wrote here that you are there actually to create change, right? You want to create change to create a more positive situation for the child, right? Does it make sense? You, as a psychologist, you want to catalyze, to make condition for positive change. Does it make sense for you too, here on the left? Does it make sense for you? Yeah.
But first you have to understand before you want to create change. You have
But I mean, in a
meaning.
yeah, but in a broad perspective, the psychologist's role is to make condition for positive change.
After you've understood those specific meanings, yes.
Yeah, because you put it in a step by step. Like first, you have to analyze a situation to create the therapeutic alliance. I was talking about the general goal of the therapy is it about change therapy, about guiding in the process. If you take, for example,
Or helping the families. It's like the,
I know there are many nuances. I know.
but yeah.
But you agree with this idea of you have a person, and at the end of the therapy will not be the same person. Yeah. And I put the word interactive because there is a reason why the mother is there. Do you think it's important that you understand the child's social situation, his relation with the teacher, with the other peers? Do you think it's important for you?
Yes, because the child could have different behaviors in different, or has different behaviors in different contexts.
Yeah, exactly. So I will imagine that you read this, you get this information from a research report, okay? It's research who compare motivated and unmotivated children, right? Okay, so two groups based on their behavior. So how we know that he's motivated or unmotivated is by their behavior and by the degree by which they meet teachers' expectations. So this is very Bandura perspective on motivation. So in this research, they want to know who learn best in school, the motivated or the unmotivated children. And that they discover that the motivated children learn more, learn better, achieve higher school, right? And they end up saying in the conclusion, well, the implication of the research for society intervention, this is the last part of a paper in the conclusion or the end of this discussion. This is what is interesting for you, is to intervene on motivation in order to create conditions for school success. Okay? So if this child has is delayed compared to his peer at school, and you read this in order for you to have a more toolbox, right? What will you keep from that to guide your intervention? Do you understand my question? Yeah. How will this kind of result guide your intervention?
Work on motivation.
Yeah. So to make the child be more motivated, so for him to be a motivated child, to turn him into a motivated child?
Still, there's a lot of nuances.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe keeps like in the school context, like to apply techniques, or the teacher that could apply techniques in order to, I don't know, like keep the dynamics and activities at school that motivating for the kids.
Okay.
Yeah, like to change strategies.
Yeah.
In order to make that class motivating.
Okay, so that you will act on the teacher. You will maybe give some advice to the teacher.
Yeah, maybe I'm talking about like taking into account that.
Yeah. You will have in mind how
like-
teacher motivate
Like,
the child.
For example, in math class, like
Yeah.
change some
Yeah.
strategies in order to change to motivate more the kids.
Okay, so you will work on motivation as an intermediary variable because you know that it may impact the learning, right?
You add it to your toolbox of.
Yeah, you add it to your toolbox, so there are other things too. Okay. And you consult another research. And in the research, they compared the learning of disabled children and try to identify the variable associated with learning. So they discovered that behavioristic pedagogy. Do you know what it is, a behavioristic pedagogy? It's to be very, to put a frame on children and to make each step explicit. You will do this, but I am, as a teacher, the leader. You will do this first, and to make everything previsible. Everything, do you know the previsibly? Yeah. And to put a frame like that. So imagine that this discover that behavioristic pedagogy like that is associated with higher score, and that it is mediated by motivation, right? We already know that motivation is important. So now we know that two things are important, particularly for those children, and you learn that he is a disabled child, so that you are talking about the classroom. Behavioristic pedagogy, right, works, and it improves motivation, and motivation improves the efficiency of this method. So now you have a complexity of variable, right? And you already know from the previous study that motivation is important. So what?
But first, I think I've already said this, but who is this child? Where, yeah, what's his context? Because you don't know if the motivation and the behavior is pedagogy and
Yeah, so it's.
You don't know if it applies with.
Yeah, so it's important what you are saying, exactly, the context aspect, but this context is present in your therapy session, and is present in the life of the child. You can ask the mother, how is the child doing at school? But in the research, there is no context, right? So you have to make the step to right? You understand what I mean? Because statistic research are, by definition, decontextualized, right? It's about variable. Does it make sense?
It's like the Brenner's phrase, how is it? I'm going to look for the. It's like, but you know who the people from that research came from.
Yeah, you know where they came from. Yeah, but you don't know about their particular context. So you have to do an extra effort. You have to make sure that this is something very decontextualized, and you have, so you know that, okay, motivation and this kind of pedagogy can help learning, but he has some issue with learning. This is very basic, but this is in your toolbox. But then you have to do something, right? You have to learn more about this family, and how does it apply, right? But then, so far, the research is not that useful, right? Because you have to do an extra step. Does it make sense? It's just a general inspiration. It gives you general, you're on the road, it's like there is a stop there, it's just general signal. But it's not that deep, right? Reading a research report. It's just, maybe motivation, maybe this. I will look at it. What do you think about this? If you look this kind of report and you want to use it in therapy, is it really useful? I'll let you think. Maybe you don't understand the sense of my question, but I am. No, is it really useful to know to have this kind of data in mind when you want to intervene with these children? Is it so useful?
I'm not a psychologist, so
Psychologists, imagine that you are in this situation and you know that this child has some issue learning and that you just read these two reports. How important will that be? How will it translate concretely in your intervention? Will it guide the question that you will ask?
Yeah, for example, I will ask if the children is less motivated. So if he is less motivated, I will intervene. I will intervenir.
Yeah, intervene.
Yeah, in that variable.
And how you will do that? So that your goal will be to make the child more motivated?
Yeah, I will to research some process or some kind of therapy that.
So now you are saying that something is missing in this kind of paper because it does not inform you on how to help the child, how to make him more motivated.
Right.
It just shows you that there are the motivated and the under-motivated, but it does not inform you on the process, on the mechanic, on how motivation works as a process, and how to catalyze it. This comes from qualitative research. Those both are complementary. So this is more descriptive. It gives you some variables that are important, but how motivation works as a process and how you can catalyze it in therapy, this is the qualitative part. But I want to have this discussion to let emerge this, maybe there is something missing in quantitative paper. There is something missing in qualitative paper too. But now I'm going in the direction of my presentation, but it's more pedagogical because I don't want to arrive as the expert. It does not work in a I will. This is. I will narrate a story. I will narrate something that happens to me. Okay. I went into a classroom with disabled children, but the classroom was outside of the school. It was located in one of the room of the Child Protection Agency. Because their children were they were violent, and their disabilities were very severe. So I decided to go there, take my courage, because they told me, yes, these children, they can throw some chair, and I was like, are they superhero? Very strong. And I was there to observe and to intervene. So I just arrived there, and the teacher started by saying, well, you know what the research shows, that autistic children need. So, but the need comes from a research report, right? But not from him or her, right? But you brought this already. Is she always like that as a student? Okay, so she said she needs a behavioristic approach. Because this will keep them motivated. It makes sense, looking at the statistic report, right? As I shown, the relation between motivation and behavioristic mediate each other and mediate learning also. But I know that statistic language is a bit more complex, but I keep it simple. So she said, this guy here is an autist. So she is already framing me in certain direction, right? And she's saying there is X, Y, Z way to intervene with him. So she took it in a book, right? And they need structure information and and it's very grounded in statistic research. What is the association between different variables? So we define from that what they need or what they're supposed to need. So I said, I asked them to sit individually. There were like 4 children. And they have to apply. Because I am the expert, this is behavioristic, they have to apply what I show them. It's like learning a behavior, but you learn the content of the expert. This is behavioristic. So each of them have to apply, and she said that you will see that, let's call him Diego. Diego he does not like it. He will start to move his leg, then he will have some behavioral problem. You will see that, so I will have to reinforce the frame because it's what he needs, and the statistic research show that it will motivate him. And then he will explode, maybe he will push the chair, so I put my helmets. I brought my helmets to be sure. Yeah, my helmets. And then you will have to go to this room outside. It's always the same. Okay. So effectively, he start to move, and she said, "Stay on your chair." And he walk, and he stand up, and you want to talk to him. And she said, "No, what did I say?" And she said to me, "You will see, he needs some discipline. This is what he needs." And the research showed that how to manage class in a disciplined way make them feel more secure, right? So, now, stay still and apply this. And she showed me what he did, and she said he's doing worse than the other people, than the other children. And then it escalates all the time. So he is underperforming and not feeling comfortable, but she's always doing the same because she read it from research report. And he's still unmotivated, and it's not working. So the research report that she will have read, and that will inspire some practical guidance book for practitioner, like with autists. This is the characteristic of autism, and this is how you intervene. It doesn't work. So what's missing? And here comes a psychologist. Imagine that you meet him and his mother. What will you ask?
Tell us your story.
Sorry?
Tell us your story. Who are you?
Sorry?
What will you ask? You ask the child and the mother, who are you? Tell us your story.
Yeah, to tell their story,
Who
yeah.
are you?
Yeah.
Not the boy from the book. Who are you?
Exactly,
Why are you living this
to
life?
learn about them, exactly, to make it more personal, right?
We ask more also if behavior at home, or
Yeah.
if there were some last events, the routine has changed in the last week.
So to see if, so you can compare with so you can ask the teacher, has it been always like that? No, it happened since the last month. So, we divorced. So right, you put in correspondence, you open up and you want to learn more about. So it means that, of course, research result from statistics cannot be applied like this. You have to do something like you said. Okay. But we still have to learn about the process. Well, about motivation. If you want to motivate him, you need some tools to learn how motivation works. Okay. Let me show you the other side of the story. I am a bit delinquent because the teacher left, and she left me alone with the children. Yeah. So I did not respect her rules. What did I do? I put myself a bit removed, and I just let things flow to observe. And I had two things in mind. Well, a few things in mind. It's like, let it flow and see what happens. Actually, it cannot be worse than him moving his leg and him disorganizing himself. It already does each day, right? And try, Dany, to find moments in which the child surprise you. Moment of exception. Try to be open, actually, to his potentiality. Moment where you feel uncomfortable. Do you know Piaget? It's like moment when you are, because you are a learner, you learn about this child, but in this moment of ambiguity, you are between assimilation and accommodation. Sometimes we say, it's difficult to size this guy. Probably it's difficult for you to size me. But it's okay. Because I am not in a box, I am not in a structure, I am between, so something is emerging. So I said to myself, let him surprise you, and when you feel uncomfortable, keep with it. Don't over-intervene, because when you intervene too much, you are intervening on you feeling bad, not on him, right? So I let it emerge, and what happened is very good. But if you want to learn, you want to know what happened? Yeah, but for the other part of the class, it's $5. No, okay. Okay, so she left. He stand up and he explained to him the task. And I was looking at the whole situation, which this is very qualitative because you look at the whole context, but you don't need 100 child. The whole situation in his home, what is happening in terms of pattern of interaction. He stood up, he explained to him, and he was doing more than what the teacher asked, but more than what she asked. He was overperforming, but she could not see it because each time what she saw is that it's the signal of someone unmotivated. Because of the indicator, when you look at how you measure motivation, is related with meeting the expectation. So you had a limited definition. So sometimes when you define the way variables are defined, they are defined in a very narrow perspective and depersonalized. So you need qualitative research to complete. So he was overperforming. And what I observed at this moment, and then he just discussed. And then he went out and he continued very quietly, right? So it shows me what he needs. And the needs, the voice of the children is enacted in action. We call it enactivism. So he needs something more informal. He needs to lose it up a bit, which contradicts the research, actually, the result of research. He needs to be, for once in his life, to be the leader, because all the time he's someone who we intervene on. He is the object of intervention, so he is helping him. But he's doing, usually, have you heard about zone of proximal development? Usually it's the more advanced who help the other one, right? But here, he was more advanced. So sometimes theory does not fit. The less advanced want also to help the other. And the body moving in space and creating solidarity, those are 4 triggers that I learned from this situation. And what I did is that I showed the teacher, and she said, no. I said, please, calm down, but I did not say that. I gave her some cookie, for example, and then she, okay. And I just went like this, like, Diego, horizontal relationship, show me. I don't understand this exercise. So I put him in the lead position, and he did that. The teacher was like, after all this year. And then I went with the ergotherapist, who tried to show how to attach his shoes. It was the first time that he achieved it. So it's something very simple. It's just an attitude. I learned the catalyst, what he needs, right? But my point here is that this is exactly the kind of research that we do in cultural psychology. So Maria could have been there filming me and observing the child and seeing the switch, the old situation and the different switch. What happened just before he started to pronounce this word or to be more autonomous, or what happens before? What are his trigger? And observing the whole situation. So this is more qualitative research, and we look at the catalyst. So we know that those kind of things could be trigger for a motivational process in school achievement. But we know it because we studied one child in one context and we went very deeply. So and we can generalize by qualitative research. We generalize by keeping in mind some lesson. So first, let the child speak to yourself through his gesture, right? It's not true that all the time the same behavioristic method will, right? So this can be a generalized lesson. He can speak through his action. He will show you the way. Actually, when the child deviates from the task, he is talking to you through his gesture. He's saying to you, this is where I want to be triggered. Adult, this is what I need. So this is a process of self-orientation. I am orienting the teacher. Deviation, I wrote a paper on deviation, right? As a process, as a dialectical process by which the child speaks, by giving the impression he's against the rule. Deviation can be a generalized process in different contexts, right? So this is the kind of things that we can learn from qualitative research. Can we do something more with disabled children? Can we do something? Can we invest more the body in the class? The movement, for example, in terms of process. Will you do that? Do you think it will make sense? Or to lose it up a bit? Let's dance, let's lose up a bit. Do the opposite as what the statistics show. So we got this kind of inspiration from qualitative research. So I observed the way we do qualitative research. You observe the whole situation and you look at the progression of the child in interaction and what are the triggers. Does it make sense? So qualitative research is not about numbers. It's about going deep. And the representativity in qualitative research is the whole context. So here you have one total situation. It can be one person. You look at patterns of interaction, and you look at condition, my trigger, and you look at the deviation in how child speak about themselves in terms of identity. You will see, for example, that he feels more confident looking at his gesture, but then there is a bifurcation, there is something changing. So what are the conditions that trigger this? And those are the conditions that can be useful in therapy session. You know that from this research, that you know about the importance of the agentivity of the children. Is he in a classroom in which his agentivity is important, in which he has a place? What does he like about school? Because what I know from my research is the more problem you have in school, the more strict they will be with you, but you need exactly the opposite. And you see how it evolves in the whole situation. And you look at the variation also from one extreme to another. So I overperform, I underperform. So you look at what happened in between. So in which condition do I have some difficulty? In which condition do I overperform? Just before I move to another research, just a parenthesis. For me, the best way to take the diagnostic are the following. You can be an autistic children with autism. Deficit attention problem, right? It comes with some characteristic. Those characteristics manifest themselves differently depending on the child and different depending on the context, okay? Imagine that the child is there with a bunch of girls and the other boy are there. Maybe he's afraid of women and he will be very shy and he has a problem with his mother, for example. So there he will be even more autist, more hyperactive. But if you ask the other teacher Well, show me, is there imagine that we meet in teams and you ask yourself, what are the conditions in which the problem does not manifest itself? So it will show you what the child needs. Yeah, so, and actually, non-autistic children are also autistic differently. They can be more autistic if their parent divorced than autistic children. So it's all based on context. And those kind of information, this sensitivity to context, come from reading qualitative research, to be more sensitive about the context, about the relational aspect. I will show you a research design that I planned but I did not implement. So those are autistic children, let's say that. And I created different conditions, catalytic conditions, okay? So the idea is that I wanted to create change in order to study change in vivo so that I can help psychologists to understand change, okay? So the first step, so I have these children in the classroom and I ask them, present to you, who are you as a children? Because we know the main problem is that they will interiorize a negative discourse on themselves. They will say, I am a disabled child. They interiorize the adult discourse, but they are more than that. So who are you as a student? So I catalyze presentational process. And after, I ask them, how do you feel? And I ask them question about the image of themselves. So I make a kind of interview. Then I ask them, now, I catalyze the process of consciousness of others. So I said, well, tell me, what do you think the teacher think about you? So it's me being conscious of the image that others have on me. And research show that, qualitative research show that they interiorize the negative discourse about them, the discourse that is very categorical from there in the second, you are a non-motivated child, you are this, you are that. This is an attribution, but we do not understand the process. And so this is common sense. You are motivated, unmotivated. And this is very easy to use, this kind of typology by teacher. And this is how statistical research work, by variable who identify you are this, right? But we need also to understand the process. So this was my second trigger. And make an image, make a drawing out of it. Then I ask the same question. Okay, the same question to the children that I asked. How do you feel? Blah, blah, blah. Then I ask him, now, who are you? So maybe the fact that he presents himself, then he moved to what he thinks the teacher thinks of him. Then can you make a drawing? When he went back to this, maybe this has changed. So it means that in therapy, you can use the drawing as a catalytic tool, for example. Or you can ask the child to go from me to what other things and to me again. So there is a sequence, me, other, me. So it can inform you on therapy, on the process of change, for example. Then build a character. You have this image of you, you make a drawing, make a character like in a movie, theater. Then build a theater activity together and play it. And at each step, those are different triggers. So I want to create change, to study how change happens and at which moment does his identity change, shift. And at each moment, I can see, well, he thinks of himself in terms of having difficulties or of the possibility of overperforming sometimes. So, this is not that important. So imagine this, that we discover that the children identify, well, I did not frame it very good. Okay. Imagine that when the children move, like I said to you, from this to make a drawing, Then we ask him the same question here. Who are you? Imagine that you see a positive result in terms of identity. But that you realize that in another group, if you stop there, it gets worse. What does it mean? Sometimes we can step one step back to take two steps forward, but it gives you it helps you to visualize the process that can unfold in psychotherapy. Like, okay, when I'm speaking about myself, well, I can have some defense go up. Then, when I open myself to others, what others think of me, and then I draw it as a character. It's like externalization in the Vygotsky, but using imagination, so expanding meaning. So when you have a blocking, then an extension, but the blocking is necessary for extension. So sometimes you will see some regress in psychotherapy, but necessary regress for something else. So now you have this whole system of meaning construction that you can use in therapy, right? But that comes from a qualitative research that studies some triggers, some routes. Now you understand motivation process, but you have some cue on how to catalyze it. So this is the spirit of catalytic qualitative methodology that help you understanding change, be sensitive to some aspect. So that's quite a lot to digest. So I just want to take a pause or a stop, and I have a lot of other ideas that I put in the index. Like imagine that we have a group interview. How can we do the same from a group interview? And I have other kind of activity. There is an activity we are doing here with children. We go outside of the school. We make them discover the community. So it can be a different scale. This is microgenetic. There are different scale. But I want to come back to this circle between research and intervention. Now, looking at this, how do you think that this kind of qualitative research can help you in psychotherapy? How can it guide you, inspire you in a complementary fashion with reading quantitative report? What do you think? Yeah, you are smiling, so you want to speak.
Yeah,
I learned that from reading a quantitative methodological report.
Yeah, I am thinking how quantitative research in this context, especially in this context, limits us a lot in order to obtain information to do intervention. So, and this is basically a therapy process, as you said.
Yeah,
Like that.
Yeah, exactly. My point is this. This is exactly like a therapy session. You create change to study change, but you have to study things to study change. So there are research on therapy, right? So that they are able to identify some processes. Yeah.
That's why I was smiling, because I was thinking that two things are like parallel.
But there is a parallel because it keeps the context. It keeps it's alive more than quantitative research. I don't say that they are not good, and there are many nuances, but it's complementary.
It's complementary.
Yeah. Any thought? Let me show you another example. Well, I'm not sure if it's better for me to present another example, or if you have something to add, even as a student. How can studying, because you wrote a paper not a long time ago, do you have some example about studying, but because I don't study therapy, I study school processes, then I see that there are process of change that are universal, but do you have some study in mind in which you study psychological process and it helps you as a psychologist that you are? Do you have some example?
Yeah, but I didn't.
I know you have not prepared.
No.
I mean, it's very. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have some example of? Oh, I've read this. It helped me.
But it's very different. It's a theoretically different. So I think that you can show your next.
Okay. But do you agree when you read this kind of research report?
Because
Imagine if
what I find that is very interesting what you are showing, because particularly the creative way of making research in the process of an intervention.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So this was another, how can I, presentation diapo? I'm drawn. Yeah. Ah, okay. Yeah, but I'll extend it here. Aqui. But if it's not possible, it's okay. Okay, so let me just share it like, but at distance, do they see it again?
I have to share it again.
Because I will show you, if we do a group interview, how can we get some information from a group interview?
¿Alguien sabe cómo ponerlo en modo presentación?
Y tenemos las pantallas divididas. Ese es el problema, porque quería ver a la gente ahí. Entonces es un poquito más complicado.
Okay. Yeah, but you know there is an animation. So, but anyway.
You can zoom it. Zoom in. Yeah.
Like this. Ah, okay. Okay, great. Okay, it's one of my master students who studied the social representation of twice identity. Do you know what is, twice exceptionality? Do you know what it is, twice exceptionality?
Yeah. Altas, like having two neurodevelopmental conditions, like for example ADHD and autism.
Yeah, so giftedness and autism.
Yeah.
You are both actually. So, but the problem with this, not with them, but how we adults represent them, is that they will see only one of the two polarities. They will see that they are gifted or that they have some difficulties. But because they put their attention on the difficulty, they will not see that they are gifted. Yeah. Or because they see them only as gifted, they will not see that some problems, some needs emerge. So she studied, have you ever heard the concept of social representation? It's like how I perceive my opinion on someone, but an opinion that is collectively shared. So you, as a group, have probably a common opinion, image about me, because you have the same values, you shared something as a group. So she studied social representation. Yeah, but I want it on...
Change. Just
Yeah, it's complicado.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah, but we didn't heard now.
Oh, no.
So let me fill the gap meanwhile, so that first, when she asked, well, what do you think about these children? One teacher said, well, for me, those are gifted children. And then the other said, well, I'm not sure. For me, they have more problem, right? So they were not able to integrate. And then a third person said, well, when I think about my students, it's more nuanced than that, right? And then the fourth one say, well, they are both. What does it mean? the third person who said when she starts the process, when she herself catalyzed the process of identification, affective identification, like it's like my child. She said my children, like if it were their children. So she identified as a my. Then it trigger a change in it shift the way the opinion were framed, right? So it influenced the other person in creating a synthesis, but it's because of her triggering this. So then I built an intervention in which I asked teacher, well, now you have twice exceptional children. Now I want you to make a drawing about this child and compare them to you. So I trigger this identification and it changed the way they see it, because from a qualitative research, I've looked at the shift in meaning and what were the vector, the catalyzation. It was self-identification, but this can be generalized because it's a deep process. Zone of proximal development of Vygotsky is used in social work, in education, in psychology, because it's deep processes. So this is another way to use this when you look at shift, how meaning shift, and what are the catalyzer, right? So I built an intervention based on it. And if you meet a teacher in psychotherapy that has some, well, it's difficult with these children, but you can ask, well, do you feel that those are your children? You can catalyze this identification process in therapy, right? But I made it anyway verbally. Did you understand the example verbally? Yeah. So this is another example of the same kind of methodology, but in how you analyze the data. So you see a focus group actually as a group in which change will happen, right? And the question that you ask are triggered, and they trigger themselves. So it's like doing a family therapy. You see who influence who, and what thematic it brings will trigger change in the discussion. So it has the same quality as therapy, doing this kind of intervention, but you analyze it.
How do you document the process of change?
Well, actually, from this example, I know that it's identification. Then I go deeper how identification works. I will make another research to go deeper into it. So like, for example, the intervention that I plan here, but were you there before, when I present the different step?
Yeah.
So I can separate it. I will see which part of identification I will trigger different aspects so that I will try to see how it works. And also, well, theory analysis, you can use Vygotsky's approach, and so the zone of proximal development of the teacher. But by studying process, you will also change Vygotsky's theory. You will bring some nuance. So yeah, but to give you a full example will need me to prepare a new presentation. But I am a theorizer. I theorize on process. I discover things. One of the things from this kind of research that I discover is this state of in-betweenness, is that the state of suspension of meaning. And the implication is, for example, wait before reading the diagnostic of the children when you are a teacher. Wait. If you go in Cuba, don't ask what is your job, because you will learn from this person in another way. So this for me is a universal process. And you capture the moment in between assimilation and accommodation, and it will orient you in another direction. It's like you think I am dancing, right? So to create a new structure out of this one, but you can create something completely new out of your horizon when you let meaning being suspended. So the suspension of meaning. So I work from this, I theorize this aspect. Yeah. And I guess that you see it also in therapy, that the moment of silence Let silence be, because silence is full. The person is with himself, but with you at the same time. Yeah, yeah.
You're referring to pre-verbal experience also.
Reference to Roberto's presentation, pre-reflexive.
Your example of
Yeah.
pre-verbal,
So,
reflective.
yeah, pre-reflexive. So, but it's more philosophical stuff. But
Is this good for the example of psychotherapy or any intervention? Because any intervention is not necessarily rational his experiments or examples are use a lot of creativity that not necessarily is very intention or clearly with a rationality or a logic, a strict logic.
yeah.
It's more intuitively. It's used intuitive, and that's has to do with the hypothesizing different way of.
Yeah, hypothesis in this kind of approach is more like a theoretical hypothesis. You arrive, you say, at the end, you arrive with, well, it's, I will test the theoretical hypothesis that suspension of meaning can be a catalyzer of change, for example, but it's not, it's something that emerges out of research. You arrive with a new theoretical hypothesis, but you arrive with a new way of seeing change, theories about change, and now you can apply it to therapy. So I started by showing some result about motivation, then I show you that, well, it doesn't work in this context. But because she was not reading, qualitative research base in which they show that motivation is more nuanced. You can learn that by being in an encounter with this person, but qualitative research would help you also understand it a bit more. And you can use this catalytic in your... So what do you think now about the potentiality of qualitative research to inform your intervention, to inspire you in a complementary way? What do you think now at the end of this discussion? Do you see it a bit differently?
Personally, I do see it differently because at first, and you know that we are used to clinical psychology, we are used to use the standardized test that I mentioned at that slide. So it made me a lot of sense when you said that focused on the needs that the parent or the teacher reports. But qualitative research permits us to watch and take information about the real needs that we see.
So you change, you open a bit your horizon on qualitative.
Yes. I don't know if like a bias that in clinical psychology we have. We do take into account the observation, but we are like, personally, we are like biased by the standardized test. Yeah, only standardized.
And qualitative research will give you some. Inspire you to give you some possible cues on what contextual, what catalyzer you can use to create change, right?
Yeah, because like at the clinical context, sorry for my bias, we go to school to watch a kid, but one day is super limited, the observation and the time we have to watch the natural context. That's unnatural because we're not there all day. Yeah.
Other thought? You seems to be thinking, assimilating.
It's just like Alma says, it's important to understand the real needs of the person in front of us.
Yeah.
Like the real needs of Diego. Not just what the research says, but what Diego needs in the moment.
So from this paper, you cannot generalize Diego's reality, but what you can generalize to your own context is the sensibility that I had with him in this research and the importance of agency, right? So then you will be more sensitive to, well, maybe a teacher may be too strict, or you see, the importance of agency, so you will keep this in mind. Or and you know, I said I was looking at potentiality, so it's a way of looking at reality. It's more in epistemology. It will give you this inspiration. So, and you can pick one of the catalysts, but you can keep in mind that he is catalyzing you. So the child actually is more important than the adult. He is showing you the way, actually. So you can keep this in mind. So you can ask teacher about that. What do you observe? How can he talk to you through his gesture? Yeah.
It's like getting rid of the boxes and letting the meanings emerge in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And the boxes are the variables, but you open them and you see the variables alive, right?
It's the sound of silence, like the
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
the stance of not knowing.
Yeah. Because maybe this child, parents, has respond to a questionnaire from the other research that I show, but then this one shows something more alive. So it's different. The statistic will show you different intricacy between variable, but then you have to contextualize, to see them in context, to understand how change happens, how process happens. And qualitative research will also make the person speak by themselves. So there are different kind of quality, but we are in cultural psychology, so it's more in the extension of Vygotsky's approach, which is also different than Piaget. So how much time do we have left?
We are almost 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Well, so do you have question, commentary, insults, anything? Money? I take anything. So the goal was just to make something short and sweet, but just to create an openness. Did it work? A bit. Did I sensibilize you? A bit. A bit, okay.
Bueno, tal vez lo que yo le había pedido a él es que mostrara cómo llevar adelante algún diseño metodológico, ¿no? Como desde la perspectiva cualitativa y porque es muy diverso, es un campo muy amplio, pero muchas veces cuesta imaginarse cómo puede ser un diseño, ¿no? Entonces, en ese sentido...
And you as a psychotherapist, right? How reading report, papers from this help you?
Yes, but what I wanted to tell them is that the novelty of how can, because they are researchers and their career is to be researchers. So how can they imagine in the field of their studies to design and to make a project from a different methodological perspective. So not only what is the use, why is qualitative methodology useful? They know, but also how can they benefit from those designs in their field of interest.
So if you want to frame your project in this kind of perspective, you just have to write to her or to me. It will be a pleasure to meet you. If you don't, write to us, we will answer anyway. It's a pleasure. It's not a way to convince you or anything, but So my goal was also to not make it too theoretical, like arriving with 30 slides and to make it more casual.
Bueno, tal vez eso que, digamos, la investigación cualitativa es teórica y uno necesita tener como una aproximación teórica para poder, desde el momento que se hace el diseño y por supuesto el análisis. Entonces, y él es muy teórico, entonces, pero... Así que hizo todo el esfuerzo como mostrar más que nada como de esta manera más esquemática. Espero que haya entendido, y por supuesto que una pincelada, sí, obviamente it is an invitation.
Yeah, and there are a lot of researchers like her who study their own practice and someone else's practices. So trying to identify some shift, right, in the change, client change, right, to understand deeply the process. Yeah. Freud did that, right? But then there are other people. So thank you. Now is the time to applaud. You can let the money here. It was a pleasure to meet you. And if you want to write to me to have another discussion, you can write to her. You have her email address, or to you?
Yes, they have.
Right, yeah, we are easy to. Yeah. And you? What did you? Did you learn something?
Yes, for the beginning, I figured out the pronunciation.
In the beginning, yeah.
Bueno, muchas gracias a todos los chicos por estar acá. Bueno, y los dejo invitados a un coffee que queda para que puedan compartir de manera más diferente. Gracias. Menos formal.
Can I keep my thought there? Or okay.
Don't worry.
Have a coffee.
So, it was okay?
Sí, sí.
Yeah.